1116. 3 ones.
And what is your email?
muhammedkhattk@gmail.com.
Alright, yeah, should be set. So everybody.
Is this the same thing that was on here?
Yeah, it's on the source. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. The greatest conceivable being existent term is morally person was that everything is that the GCB is petition for non-existence that they have conditions for example for sure. Example about a code dependent on labor class for example to the GCB on a dependent on precondition is because it would not be possible for dependent on greater than for example we think human majority in the code because no confusion there are no humans premises. GCB is no condition for existence necessarily is because all conditions listed are fulfilled. For example, 0 most steps to take a finish a test and the test is finished wolf. Premise 1 is understanding that God is great conceivable being that exists in our minds. Premise 2 is to suppose that GCB only exists in the idea of the mind. Premise 3 is that and then I could conceive it could be greater being than GCB that exists both in mind reality. Premise 3 leads to a contradiction which conceivable within GCB. The GCB cannot exist in the mind reality since the GCB exists in our minds. It cannot be because only the mind reality, not the mind reality. The GCB must exist in reality. 2 except your own beliefs and trust for mental facilities, only mental abilities and nature, natural influences, adaptation, instruments, and free mobility. The GCB is really ordered cognitive faculty, social judgment means answers are self-refuting, collapse, epistemic belief in the GCB is practical. Actually, 3 surveys every unit is cause determined scientific reason that's the GCB generally applies to determinism. Actions but emotional always influence the subject based on the concept of life decision making generally the word contingent conscious means there no free will. The GCB rules everything important. Pascal, wait your default to belief in the GCB since disobeying GCB if in abandonment or rationally non-existent GCB only instrumental be offered formativity only consists of arguments that want to see not be here in the first move or every the authority GCB collapse the affirmative the 6 fairness to change the affirmative 6 minutes Robin 6 times 2 7 13 that's a standard consistency GCB will infinitely good goodness definitionally greater than balance different GCB is one of those source of good something more good than GCB greater than non-inherent and paradoxical obviously it's plan text result the United States social limited domestic manufacturing deduction subsidy affirm DMD subsidy limited status quo GCB will associate Dorsey 29. U.S. tax subsidies, fossil fuel industry, federal government provides numerous subsidies to both directed fossil fuel industry, domestic manufacturing deduction. This subsidy repealed the tax skills and job skills. Underview. Affirming is harder all theory, arguments of list affects energy, and talk about outweighs for negative fairness, proof how that outweighs disparity since the structural shock. 19, the negative wins the difference, p-value less than 0.001, the negative wins the F in favor of sigma, that accounts for disparity, school always empirics and account for all factors, so trust empirics, experience over analytics. 2 is after your no argument, your comedian interrupt the effort regardless of voters, and 8.7 dB, so impossible check and see never get the after the read theory of also uses when times you one error means impossible to justify paranoid damage uses which the show comes first because times you I couldn't respond to a negative arguments of the false and reject theory on that K and the spice of contradiction because the nature for mind like on contradictions flow out because the contradiction of the either their fault the after proud to answer arguments so 8.1 error cannot engage multiple times you already members that have a viewpoint invincible to an million of things you can go for whenever you're on inclusions a fallacy origin don't apply to these spices are separate as offensive theory when contestants drop the winner keep the representing incentive for paradigm there's no 2 in our theory or paradigm issues 8.0 over the 2 amounts of clarification burden B point. It becomes impossible to check and see based on the reason why shell doesn't matter. There's no real multiple being multiple conflicting natures. Other resolution happens to store somewhere in the features to mind all negatives and counterintuitive. Yeah, absolute persistence every issue in the theory or requires already become event. So affirming this stated fact about the theory better for the 1 area point discrimination or contempt of the theory making through and 2 area possible be 1 to be some theory no 2 or 3 issues or paradigm issues 8 point just with the affability frame their key to recourse and they cannot put in the 1 on your chart and check form no 1 area possible because after responding to either week up later something the 2 6 minutes 2 and RB point reciprocity you can make new 2 area responses because they're not there's no 3 in our ability to peel off and see point implications and clear the AC per arguments can respond to extenders to observe voters for the arguments themselves to resolve means that minor several solutions since in the past since the resolution is already a solution so you vote after the since it's already true final letter vote after the NC's direct ability out there precluders then half the time to justify the later 6 million appear to be 1 at a time the time multiple layers preclude 2 in response to the answer and see arguments and formance presumption of facility from if we would default to be true until proven and also impossible to claim interpret the proofs to show truth be motivations reflect on reactions justify 1 being good to seem never to be able to take action justify actions more than light drinking water, morally right, justify action, and decide on the course of action, making decision negative, may not read frame issues again. The aspects of also overuse and better question must lie by one error, no limitation arguments, and hours in the 2 or 2 years, no chance for purpose 60 times 2 arguments, and except after it is absolutely constitutionally defined terms around the abuse of self-light, next various question, ability to engage in same practice, coherent and coherent because defined in the entry, and the role of aspects of better truth, falsity, resolution, the resolution, at much proved true, and then at much proved false, perforated points, I said, by entry, to find against the truth of proves the judge solvification of the resolution, truth, falsity, always common uses, and whether the rules of for the battle, general, one debate, the truth, and insurance, to process the debate, symmetry, the false constitution of the house, jurisdiction, truth, as a trust player should break the rules for more, fungated proper response to ignore the precedent, church, real jurisdiction, independent order. Many concern everything arguments concede the authority jurisdiction of one of the after the better negative contrary otherwise hack against you. Means it controls the internal fairness, definitely unfavorable one logic and role about lefts and truth and properties and property I am always also I am true. Those away means a question of truth. Could be because it's inherent means a role about warrants are mutually exclusive first and agrees that prove the resolution false, but the challenge of the assumption is secondly statements are make assumption the resolution should be attached to a conditional if in the accused and thirdly for our conditions the antecedent is false conditional is hold as a juicy one. Inclusion in the offensive function or truth is big role about absolute strategy bad for inclusive based on technical skill comprehensive debate knowledge scholarship role about truth because no, it's a good idea. The better for education to bring in engagement in the debate doesn't help anyone since real implications. Thought experiment doesn't do anything. Any naming on the misled arguments are the independent voters. If I prove that independent voters depend on some external standard, then if I will say push issue, they can make the 1 year possible. Misled arguments independent voters use that are not forcing them to go for the respond to automatic body pointing if they read a ton of random various pressure inclusion indication the list for strategic independent version induction fails detected assumes that happens the same way in the future happens the same way in the past. Only question or how happened in the past and the future is not an induction of logically places interpretation. The framing exists the FT to ground otherwise the F loses all kind of ground contention the way in theories and coherent baseball. The values are determined of abuse and equality impossible to divide or maybe one can't about the theory because the value enough to flow better. Decision actual norms so consistent with voter sequence theory doesn't produce the best rule best theory but produce and benefit the people. The things to prove true in the mayor all the time true in the real since it doesn't actually see purpose of better norms equal and then it's a contradiction because if voters see they consider beneficial combined activities establish rules of a competition F point theory suspend orders because both in the interest marginally better for answer is best for it and the answer doesn't follow G point theory paradox so attempts to limit arguments that in arguments to concede validity those arguments not H point not jurisdictional judgment only on something proving the side of the resolution is care about how we can debate the previous side theories and a voter and a true entity necessarily exists which proves trueism can be wait a true entity is just an entity without everything else one true entity reality trueism true hence and truly identity one every being trivially not trivial two every being not trivial three hence exists in a trivial being.
You good?
Yeah, ready.
One second. Alright. So why the domestic manufacturing deduction subsidy?
Like for the offense?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So it's the status quo.
So what does that get you?
So it just garners me offense under my framework because my framework is just saying the status quo is good, and my contention is saying the app is the status quo. Therefore, you affirm.
Okay. So on your affirming is harder. Why so?
Sure. So it's an empirical analysis, the Shaw 19 evidence. This is statistical analysis for the JAM-FEB topic last year, which deduced that B negative wins more statistically, 6.7%, 0.07%. So statistically negating is easier. Therefore, you just don't buy any negative fairness arguments.
Okay. So you're saying that just because of the structure of debate, it is statistically harder to affirm.
Yes.
So then I can't have a fairness impact.
Yes.
Right. So, how is it harder in this specific round to affirm?
Well, it's harder in every round because this is an analysis of every round from the JAM-FEB topic.
Okay, what is the reason for this? What's the method and what's the reason for it being harder?
The method for, yeah, sure. So the reasoning is just that the negative gets more time in the 2NR to extrapolate impacts and weigh them against 1AR arguments. The 1AR is time crunched because there's not enough time to win every layer, which means the 2AR collapse is always going to be pushed out by an efficient 2NR, which can just effectively close all the doors on the issues, just respond to any new 1AR offs, which means I can never go for offs in the 1AR. And collapse them in the 2NR or 2AR because the 2NR can always just overcover them, and then there's no way for the F to win.
Okay, because the 2NR essentially has the ability to dump.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. One second. All right. So, why? Explain your framework. Why do you use God?
Well,
and
first of all, I wouldn't
God
say it's necessarily God. It's the GCB. So yeah, we're not a specific religion, if that's what your question means. It's just that we're just saying the GCB, or if you want to call it God, I guess God exists and God wills the status quo because God's will is infinitely good.
Wait, so according to your wolf card, you guys are understanding God as the greatest conceivable being, right?
Yes.
All right. So there's no specific God that you're mentioning.
What do you mean by specific God?
Like
no
any religion?
No religion.
Okay. So, for your fourth thing on the affirming is harder,
Yeah, sure.
right, about the winning one layer.
Yeah.
So, does this, is this any arbitrary layer? It could be substance, K, or theory?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. That's fine. That's all I need. Okay. No. It's named the wrong thing, but that doesn't matter. It's what I'm going to be reading. Good one, you guys are. Do you guys mind if I close the door? Alright, so order is going to be 3 off, then case. All like their underview shit.
Yeah. One sec. Alright, good.
Alright. You guys good?
One second, it's not open. Okay, never mind, got it.
Cool. Interpretation, both debaters must disclose at least the following from all ACs and NCs are TOC bid distributing tournaments on the November, December. Unqualified immunity, or the November, December topic first, complete taglines to all cards, second, first 3 words and last 2 words of all cards, third, the standard should delineate what counts as offense and not offense with the claims to the words for that standard, and fourth, taglines to all evidence read violations. They don't have sites on the wiki, the screenshots in the docker. If you don't trust that, check the wiki on your own. Net benefits first class, more class rule. When debaters disclose, since both will be able to prep specific responses to each position, my interpret allows for more nuanced and well-researched case debate without disclosure. Debaters will be stunned by cases and not engaged arguments out of destroy in-round critical thinking, since people will A point read blogs regardless of whether disclosures in the norm, B point still after they know their their feed to respond to arguments like I have to do because the sites weren't there. C point get critical thinking no matter what they do, so it's not unique. Second, infinite research burden. If they don't disclose, I have no way of knowing what to get cards against during the tournament. Specific practice is key because no negative can be ready to debate hundreds of potential asks. The fact that they didn't tell me before the debate magnifies the abuse from straightness. One debater has 4 minutes to prep, and the other has 4 more because they've had the infinite prep advantage. They've been able to prep this and affirmative since the topic came out. They've had thousands of hours to prep it. Third, academic integrity. Disclosing their sites deters them from reading shady evidence because they know they'll call that if everyone sees that they miscut a card. Fourth, accessibility. Disclosure of small schools, big teams will inevitably have more intel than small schools. Only disclosure equals the playing field, but it's 10. Big teams already get many more flows than smaller teams because they have more debaters, judges, and coaches. Open disclosure gives everyone the access to the same info. It helps a little guy even more because for many of these debaters, the option of going to a lot of tournaments isn't available. Disclosure gives them the ability to see what other teams are running prior to the tournament. There's an added benefit of equalizing the playing field. Fifth, even if they don't disclose, they should at least tell debaters what their ask is when asked beforehand. I didn't have contact with you on their info. I had no way of knowing what ask they were going to read. I prepped out the November, December ads that they had, and then they went and read their God AC. That's also 100% of their disclosure bad because they only have to tell me, not the wiki. Fairness is a voter debate is a competition that requires equal opportunities to win the round. Voter education is the purpose of the activity is to facilitate intellectual discourse on important issues. Drop the debater at first. The round is irreparably skewed. I had to invest time in ultra-strat to check abuse, which shouldn't have even occurred in the first place. Second, reject argument is severance allows him to shiver and sever and shift advocacy to collapse on another issue in the next speech. Third, deterrence prevents them from exploiting time period on theory and continuing to be unfair in the future. Academic integrity is a voter since it's a prerequisite to mutual trust. Without that, no debates could function. Drop the debater. It's the only way to solve in this context. Deliver as 10. Change can only be had when meaningful stakes are attached to actions. Disclosure theory subsequently emerged as a tenable strategy. Wins are meaningful stakes. Wins matter, and if kids are passionate about seeing a practice go away by any means necessary, becomes a new standard. Competing interprets its reasonability. Guidelines are unfairly aggressive since we don't know what the purpose of what is reasonable to begin with. Is absolutely arbitrary force and judge intervention. We don't know where a BS meter is, or we accept the right line and debated in which case it collapses to offense, defense. Competing interpretations justifies norm creation. It's the purpose of establishing theoretical interpretations. It's a question about the rules that we defend, not just in around structural abuse. No RDIs on theory. First, RDIs show me from reading theory to check abusive practices because I know they can turn the tables on me. Always other theoretical justifications for RDIs because this means abuse will further proliferate because there's no check on it. Second, logically incoherent. I read theory because they're abusive. If they prove that they're not to counter-interpret I meet, that doesn't warrant voting you down. The times because negligible and can be quantified. Logical justifications come first because arguments have to make logical sense before we can justify if they're good or not. The theoretical advantage. Fourth, we have fourth, we have the burden of being fair. He could read theory on me, and then we could weigh up these stories, meaning theory already is reciprocal turns times 2. 8 point, new theory and weighing is more efficient. B point, less than 2-way article lots and turns. Reciprocity since he has 2 ways to win, whereas I only have 1. Now, in the second off. Interpretation, the must defend that the United States ends all subsidies for fossil fuels. 1, eliminate means a complete removal. Their interprets unreasonable. District Court of Minnesota 10. The word eliminate is subject to only one reasonable interpretation. Complete elimination. The OED provides that elimination means to remove, get rid of. The word eliminate denotes a complete removal, such as the word complete is unnecessary and repetitive. There's 45 individual production subsidies alone, each of which can be an AFC. The charts written until 17. Second, grammar, Nemo 19, violation, the absent modification, which is distinct, Glenbrooks. And 4, initiated measure of the word eliminate is inaccurate, and the word modifier would be accurate, exempts certain foods from the effect of the measure. Vote neg, first limits, 8 point quantitative. Are there interprets asked to defend eliminating one of 45 distinct subsidies for a 2-month topic that's basically a case neg a day? That's Swam's neg prep. B point qualitative. The core controversy is whether to eliminate subsidies, not whether to modify them. Our interpret forces them to defend why all subsidies are bad, which means that affirmatives will have built-in answers to picks with modeling or precedent advantages. Second ground, our offense must be based on the presumption that AF will make a large-scale change in subsidies policies, allowing tiny subsidy of the week after objects of core economy and energy independence disadvantage, which also means they're just going to be creating a rat race to the margins to see what tiny apps they can create, and they're going to be recycling those over and over. Third position, we have legal definitions backed by precedent and top dictionaries. Other interprets are unpredictable and don't reflect codified law, which is why you feel comfortable voting for the negative on 2 past the ballot already. First of all, the no disclosure, and then second, the T. Now, the third off. Interpretation, the affirmative may not have an affirmative framework about God. Violation, they read a God framework. Standards, 8 point, reciprocity excludes people like me who are Hindu. I'm Hindu and I can't actually hope to engage in and I don't have the same God as him, so it excludes me because I can't hope to engage in a debate where his God's ideals are going to be competing, are going to be what's valued. My God's ideals, all my Hindu gods aren't what's actually going to be valued, which is why at the end of the day I'm not going to be able to compete with him. They can't even meet because Hindu people don't refer to God as God, we refer to our gods by their name, so it's exclusionary, and I can't hope to engage in the affirmative under their framework. That's going to have an internal link to clash, so B point clash, I can't engage in their framework, so it destroys clash because we're not going to be able to have a good framework debate. We're going to have to end up debating on the substance itself. There's no point to the framework. It's essentially just going to incentivize the negative to uplift like I had to do, and at the end of the day, we're not going to get any education. Voter first education, I can't get education because I literally can't engage, and we don't get clash, so no education regardless, which is why There's also, that's why you drop the debater. It's the only punishment for excluding different religions and destroying our in-round education because we can't actually engage. And there's no RBIs, extend all the no RBIs on theory things from the first shell. Now on case. Just on their underview. The main thing that we actually have to touch on is their fourth point, that if they win one layer of theory, then you vote affirmative. So you don't actually do that because theory has to be coming before everything else. We have to ensure whether or not they cheated before we can get to anything else. That's why even if affirming is harder, they don't show specifically why it's harder in this round. Sure, maybe the negatives win 6% more rounds. That makes no difference whatsoever. First of all, the sample size is incredibly small. It's on the January, February topic of a couple years ago, which is why their sample size on their empirics doesn't work at all. That's why you disregard the entire underview shit. And then, you don't let them win just off of one layer. They have to engage in all the layers of that the negative brings up. In this case, it's just theory and T, so you just have to win on one layer at the end of the day. And we're going to show you that we win because they don't meet T or the two theory shells. And at the end of the day, they're being super abusive and destroying our education overall. Now, on the fairness thing, they say that we can't be... They say that we can't have fairness as a voter because it's just more fair to be negative, and it's like fairness is skewed towards the negative at the end of the day, but we're showing you obviously not, especially the specific arguments that they're reading. It makes it impossible for me to ever be able to hope to engage with them, and that destroys not only fairness but also education, which is why we don't have just fairness as a standard. But even if you want to collapse our framework, our voters just a framework, we can win on that as well, which is why I strongly urge negative. I'm moving for a cross.
Alright, ready?
Yep.
What's the violation on the disclosure shell?
You guys don't have open source, or you don't have sites?
What does that mean? I open source everything.
Well, yeah, but that makes it really hard to. You have to have sites for me to be able to get a quick overview of what your affirmative is.
You can't just click the open source and have the full document with highlights.
But see, at the end of the day, it's going to be, I just want to see your tags. I don't want to see everything that you've highlighted. I need a quick way so I can figure out what you're reading and when, and how to respond to it. I can't waste time going to read through every...
Not solve, like AC Cont, AC GCB, how do those not solve? Because you already know what the app is talking about.
But I don't know which one you're going to read.
Okay, that's fine, I guess. Let's go to the second shell. Is there a jurisdiction voter?
Oh, what does that mean?
Like, do you vote negative because the app isn't topical for like a jurisdictional reason?
Yes, it's literally the voter because you guys aren't topical, so.
Where is that? Was that exempt because it's not the doc?
Wait, what is the jurisdiction part of it?
Yeah, so it's just saying you, like, the judge has an obligation to vote neg because the app isn't topical. Do you have that, or do you just say
no, it's
being
those
not
three.
Topical is unfair?
It's the theory about being non topical.
Alright,
like,
so let's go to your third off.
Yeah.
How is this true insofar as the app, like CX was very clear, I don't defend a religion, it's just like a deism. How is this argument true?
Because, okay, look, I don't refer to my Hindu religion, like higher beings, as God. I refer to them
I never did either. I said UCB, greatest conceivable being.
But that's literally wrong. Your wolf word says God is the greatest conceivable being. Hold on, let me pull that up right now. Right?
Okay, so why can't you just read like a Hinduism hijack to the app?
Because that's nice. So you're proposing that I go away from what I've been drilling with the entire time, skew my strategy even more from what you've already made me skew.
Yeah, you do have to make arguments sometimes in debate rounds that you didn't make in practice rounds. Like, why couldn't you just read a Hinduism hijack?
Because that would destroy my strategy, would destroy any hope I had of winning the debate. At the end of the day,
if
the way we get good at debate...
true, then the hijack would be really easy to win.
But it's not what I'm used to drilling with. It doesn't matter. You've drilled with this affirmative for weeks. You read this at Blue Key and stuff, and which is why at the end of the day, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to win under your God because you've actually drilled with it, and I have not drilled with how to, you understand how your God works. I don't understand how my God works in this context.
I'm Catholic. I don't believe this framework is true, so how does the offense apply?
What do you mean?
I don't believe in this framework. I'm Catholic. I don't think the status quo is perfect, so how does your argument make any sense?
Because it's still exclusionary, the fact that you read it.
What? Okay. And the only independent, so the voters are fairness, education, and this academic integrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is academic integrity independent voter? It seems to be just a fairness claim that it's unfair to cheat.
Sure.
Oh, it is?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good. The order is just going to be case, group the T shells. Oh, actually, I have one comment. I'll send it back. Yeah, so it'll just be the half, the underview, then like the 1 and C shells, starting with an overview. Okay.
Should be sent. The new card's just at the bottom. Just the Niami card.
Is this at the bottom of the dot page?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, alright, cool.
Alright, so everyone good. The entirety of the framework was conceded in the premise that the GCB is not dependent on any precondition possible for dependent. For example, the degree you've conceded that through the code, because there's no humans now, will also extend the Pascal's wagering the default to believe in the GCB said disobedience would be infinite badness or actually not the GCB is instrumentally bad. Insofar as all cities conceded, it's completely game over. Extending advocate that the result of the United States ultimately limited domestic product reduction and subsidies in the Darcy 29 instance. This is the status quo, so it's good. This impacts Trinity because God willed all of the duties that I have. If I went into my framework, that means the status quo is perfect, which means everything that I did was willed by the GCB. So the GCB's will is obviously a precondition to fairness because it determines whether or not we can do that in the first place. The underview. This is where you auto lose the debate. You can see the truth test in its highest lyrics and the role of also determine the truth falsity. The resolution extend the appointed text extend specifically the constituent way that outweighs on the jurisdiction because you don't have the jurisdiction not to truth test. If a chess player says you should break the rules for a more fun game, the proper response is to ignore that practice. You have conceded this. You also conceded that jurisdiction controls the internal link of fairness because the judges could just hack against you, which means it controls the internal link. This was completely conceded. Now, you conceded two arbiters and the result is defined as a final solution. Insofar as the past tense resolution has already been found to affirm. Also, it's defined that to extend affirm is defined as the state as a fact, which insofar as I've stated as a fact, I've affirmed, which means you affirmative automatically. Lastly, you have conceded the truth. Leo similar to extend the caveat that every single trivial identity is true and indicates a trivial and non-trivial identity. Insofar as this is true, the resolution is true on face. All of these were completely conceded, which means you ought to vote affirmative on face. The neg shells. Over you conceded 7 reasons theory is incoherent. Extend the A point that the ballot is determined off of use and inequalities. Otherwise impossible to do a valid throw. Extend the B point that you can't validate the theory because of valid off the flow. Rather than better decision to extend the C point that the theory doesn't produce the best rules since it allows the better debaters to produce other rules that will benefit them. These were all conceded. You also conceded don't allow 2 in our responses because they completely screws the F strategy. Insofar as all of these were conceded, you just vote affirmative on face. Insofar as they have no offense. Also, the second framing issue is conceded. All negative trips are countership since the F takes an implicit stance. Cross upon your own no RVI arguments, which means that there's absolutely no offense insofar as you conceded all negative trips are counterships. The F takes an implicit stance on every issue. This was also conceded. This was also conceded and takes it out independently. We'll just respond to the. In CX, you conceded academic integrity is devolves to fairness. We'll just make the argument here that cheating obviously only matters because of fairness, i.e. it's unfair to cheat, which means it doesn't matter. Now, on the first shell, I disclose everything open source. Second is I mean that your interest from the November 2016 topic, I did do it then, which means text before spirit because it's the only thing, keep stable obviously, it's the only thing we can actually hold them to. Also independently non-verifiable, you do not have screenshots showing anything. Literally look in the doc, it says ACGCB in the screenshot, which means I definitely mean. Now on your religious argument, shell 1 is I mean, it's not ABOT isn't a word, which means your interpretation is incoherent. The second point is, I mean, it's not God. This GCBCX was super clear. It's not a religion turn. You can just justify Hinduism and explain why it didn't gates, which means it's not better for you on reciprocity and turn. It's better for you to compete because you can always get an easy hijack and win. And if anything, it's just not true because I'm putting myself at a structural disadvantage because I don't agree with the affirmative teacher, which means it's false. And grammar can force this conception wins. It means to be correct in this week. This form of correctness is racism. Independent reason to drop me 15 spontaneously to wrong with debate to be correctness is ideal functioning body versus all others. The debater runs T embraces the perspective of competent English speakers that should mean a remarkable form of English or inferior those who live up to the standards not involved in debate. There is no benefits that correctness could possibly correct. Now, extend permissibility presumption affirm because we default something being true rather than false. Also extend the AFC shell the interpretation the negative may not contest any of the framing negatives they have. You conceded you have contested some of the underview arguments, which means that true extend the argument to ground that this moves the entirety of our contention. Also, you conceded that every spike is a separate offensive theory argument, which is drop the debater if you contest them, which is key to norm state and provides strong incentives. You contested if I win one layer vote after. So drop on face extend one layer cannot engage in multiple layer sensors this queue already, which means that it's completely impossible to win if you contest any of the spikes. Yeah, they conceded several spikes that take out all of the offs. So you can just affirm on true testing or the
Wait, what'd you say against the T shells?
There were a couple arguments. The first one is the conceded theories and coherent arguments. There were 4 extended. The second argument is the all negative trips are counter trips argument. So that argument just says the AF takes a stance on every issue, so any negative interpretation is a counter interp. So therefore you need an RBI for it to be offensive. So I just extended your no RBIs, so that takes it out. The other argument was the Miami argument that Evilty is racist. Also, the true testing weighing was done as to why that outweighs. Do you want the counter interps or?
No, I'm good.
All right.
That's all I wanted. And what were the arguments on the first show, besides me?
Yeah, sure. So there's the IME arguments, the non-verifiable, because the screenshots don't show that I'm missing sites, and the judge obviously can't look them up for themselves. Also, you could have prepped out the other app that was on my wiki, so your offense is terminally non-unique. Also, the argument about how having the name solves, if you see AC cont, then you obviously know it's a cont app, so all the abuse is solved by that.
It'll be overview on theory in general, mixed in with what the hell? Alright, mixed in with all the stuff they said about us conceding shit, and then on the overview, and then it'll be the first shell and the third shell. So the one about disclosure and the one about religion. Sound good? On the overview, to say that we conceded theory is bad, that makes literally no sense. They didn't listen to what I was saying. They were just looking at what was on my doc, and because I didn't respond to their stuff on the doc, they didn't actually listen. So on the fourth point, on his fourth point about the theory, on his theory underview, I literally tell you that theory needs to come first because we need to evaluate whether or not someone cheated before we can actually evaluate substance. Because here's a really wild analogy, but it's an analogy nonetheless. Imagine that someone was holding a gun to my head while I was debating. Obviously, I wouldn't be debating to win, which is why we need to evaluate whether or not they cheated in such a manner before we can actually evaluate whether or not they should be winning on any other layer of the debate. That's why theory is the only layer of the debate that this debate really collapses down to, and they have to win on theory, which they're obviously not going to be winning on. So let's move on to the first cell. So their first things that the interviews from 2016. LOL, I literally don't say 2016 once. I don't care what's on the doc. I didn't read the words 2016 to 2017. I said on the November-December topic, which is why you don't take this response into account. I'm just telling you that it's on this November-December topic specifically, not on the 2016 topic. That argument makes literally no sense. I didn't say 2016 one damn time. I don't care what's in the doc. Actually listen to what I say, and you might actually be able to make a response that makes sense. And then on the thing about him meeting, you literally can't meet. Look at the screenshots. You wrote C open source. I'm telling you, look at the interpretation. You need to first you have to have, the second part of my interpretation is that you have to have the first 3 words and the last 3 words of every single card that you're going to be reading, disclosing the opens in the side box. You obviously don't have that. You just say C open source, which makes no sense. And then you also make that even worse by not telling me which affirmative you're going to read before round. I tried to contact you, but you have no contact information on your wiki. There's no way for me to know what you're going to read. You're making the abuse so bad that it's impossible for me to ever try to win. And that's an extraordinary impact on fairness. They say that fairness is not a voter. I obviously responded to that back in the 1MC. Fairness is a voter because that's the only way to evaluate whether or not the negative can actually win. I don't care if the negative won 6% more in January, February of a couple years ago. That really doesn't matter. You shouldn't be using outdated evidence like that to begin with. Empirics like that don't matter. It's such a small sample size. You're not going to be able to get anything out of that. 6% is also such a tiny amount that it doesn't really matter. Now, top level like impact rank, obviously this should have come before, but regardless, impact rank. You want to be voting off of the impacts of the all the impacts, extend all of them through on the first shelf. First is clash. We're going to be destroying education just from clash alone. We're not going to be able to clash because I don't know exactly what they're going to be reading. They say C open source. I don't have time. We had 10 minutes between rounds. My round finished at finished 10 minutes right before this round started, which makes it impossible for me to ever be able to go and look at every single open source document that you're going to read because you don't tell me what you're going to be reading, which is why it makes it impossible for me to ever know what to prep against, which is why Clash is an extraordinary you extend Clash through, which is why, and we're going to be destroying education there. And then second, because of the infinite research burden, they didn't disclose, so I had no idea of knowing what to cut cards against. Even if during the 10 minutes, I didn't know what they were going to be reading. There were 2 possibilities. They don't tell me which one they're going to be using, which is why at the end of the day, the infinite research burden is going to outweigh as well. And then the fourth, the third reason that you vote for us is that they should at least be telling us what their AF is beforehand. That would solve all of their disclosure bad offense. They drop that, they cold drop that, extend that through. They could have met it really easily just by telling us this. They would have been able to avoid this really messy theory debate, and we wouldn't have had to up there. We would have been able to engage in substance because I would actually have been able to prep it out. So that's why you vote on all of our impacts. They have no impacts to match. All they say is that theory doesn't come first. However, I'm telling you, obviously theory does come first. All of our impacts are going to be outweighing all of theirs because they make it functionally impossible for us to ever be able to try and engage with them, which destroys not only fairness but also education because the affirmative or negative simply can't hope to engage since we don't know what the affirmative is. We don't even know like a brief idea of what the affirmative is because they don't disclose their tags in the site box. Now on the religion shell. Their main response was just that cross-sex was really clear that they're not talking about a specific god. There's 2 responses to this. 8 point, it really wasn't clear. They kept beating around the bush. They didn't give a clear reason how they're using that, like all gods. They said that we're using all gods, and then literally their card Wolf 19, Wolf, it says that God is the greatest conceivable being. When people think God, they think Jesus Christ, which is why they're excluding my religion, Hinduism, from being able to compete with them, and it's making it impossible for me to engage. They say I could have just read a Hinduism framework, but that makes no sense whatsoever. I didn't have time to prep it out in the 10 minutes that we had before the round. I didn't know what he was going to be reading, so I wouldn't have been able to prep it out regardless, which is why at the end of the day, none of their responses actually make sense. Extend all my standards through. 8 point is reciprocity. I literally can't engage with the affirmative because I don't share the same belief system, which is why at the end of the day, you don't vote for this, you don't vote me down for reading the show. In fact, you vote him down because he's making it impossible for me to ever engage. He destroys education. That's going to outweigh all of his stuff because he says, even if you say that fairness isn't a voter in some world, I don't understand where that would come from since I obviously responded to it, but even if you say that education has to be the main voter, we still win on education. On the first shelf, first of all, we're showing you how they destroy Clash, and then they create an infinite research burden and like academic integrity and all that stuff. And then on this shelf, both of our standards link to education. Reciprocity, it means that we can't actually be engaging in the affirmative under their framework, which is going to be less educational for both of us. But that has an internal link to Clash because I can't engage, so they're going to be destroying Clash, which is going to destroy education. The point of debate, why we come here, is to have education, not to have It's to have clash, not to have a round where both ships pass in the midnight. We don't want to be having that round. The only way to make sure that we don't have that round in the future is by drop the debater for both of these shells. Our impacts obviously outweigh. All they have left at the end of the day is their theory underview, and that only they don't realize that I already responded to that in the overview in the 1NC, because I responded to their fourth point that theory has to be first, because we need to evaluate whether or not someone cheated on substance before we actually get to substance, which is why theory is the only layer of the debate you actually vote off. If theory actually makes sense, because they're cheating and they're making it possible for the negative to ever be able to win, which is why you should feel comfortable voting on all of our impacts. They have no response to any of them, which is why we strongly negate.
It'll just be like overview to the T shells. Show me that one. It's good. Is everyone good? Yeah.
Couple framing issues on the T-shell. One is you concede all negative chirps or counter chirps that the F takes into puts a stance on every issue that you need it. You need an RVI for these to become offensive, and you also extend to no RVIs. Cross up high, that takes out. It means the shells completely go away. The second framing issue is you conceded jurisdiction controls the internal line of fairness insofar as truth testing determines our ability to engage in the round. For specific, on the truth testing rule about that means it comes prior to all your fairness. Come to the third argument. That you conceded the impact entity that the GCB willed all my views, so it's good. If I win all my framework arguments, that functions as an impact entity and takes it out. Now the case was entirely conceded. We'll just extend the Pascal's wager argument. The default to belief in GCB disobeying would be infinite badness. So rationally, following now since the GCB is instrumentally bad. Now in the offense, the Dorsey 29 evidence indicated that the status quo is the FXC, which means it's automatically going to be good. This means we impactor in the impactor in the T shells and prove that they're good. Now the truth testing debate, you have conceded the role of balance to a vote for the debate to prove truths. The truth or falsity resolution extend the 8 point of text. You concede our constituents and weighing that always because you don't have the jurisdiction not to truth test it. I.e., if a chess player says that they should break the rules for more fun or more education or whatever the one he says, you should obviously reject that insofar as it's not constitutive of the activity. You also concede the jurisdiction of the independent voter constraint your evaluation. Now for the offense, you concede the resolved operation. The resolve to find a solution insofar as in the past tense. That means the resolution has already been resolved, which means you affirm on face. Also extend the affirm operator that affirms to find a state of fact insofar as I've stated the fact that means it's definitionally true on face. These are all these are all independent of fairness, and I'll prove that like if I win any of these, that means you automatically affirm on face. Now, lastly, you conceded all 8 reasons theory is incoherent. Your only response is theory must come first. But sure, even if you win, the theory must come first. It's a question of theory being valued. Insofar as you conceded theory literally makes no sense to be valued. That means it's completely irresolvable and you can't vote on it. And the 8 point that B value is always determined off abuse inequalities. It's impossible to evaluate the round. Extend the B point that you can't evaluate theory because it's evaluated off the flow rather than who actually says the better norm, which is consistent with your voters. Extend the C point that theory doesn't produce the best rule, since the better theory base will always produce it, which means that all of your norm setting arguments are just definitionally false and taken out. And the second framing issue is you conceded that any contestation of ass spikes is a separate offensive theory argument, which if the net contestants drop the barrier key to norm since these are stronger to set paradigm norms. Insofar as you contested the F under B, you dropped on face that outweighs on magnitude and outweighs under norm setting. Insofar as it's guaranteed to set better norms. The first second thing is you conceded the AFC shall extend the interpretation that they negative matter contest any frame mechanisms of the F. You contest our spikes, which was a violation conceded in the 1 and the ground argument that we lose all offense to our standard. This outweighs all of your arguments on magnitude. This outweighs all of your shells on magnitude. The last framing issue we're going to go for is you could just straight drop T as racist and you drop them on basics in the ME15 evidence that you refer to the conception of grammar saying that I should lose because I do not defend this racism insofar as it determines what is the best English speaker. This was a completely conceded argument and outweighs all of your arguments. So let's just go to the disclosure shell. You have conceded that it's non-unique insofar as 10 minutes isn't enough time to prep, which is an argument you made on the religious shell. You also conceded that since the F says ACGCB, you already know what it is to prep it out, which means there's marginal offense here. That AFC shell definition always on the religious shell. You conceded the non-unique that I'm Catholic and my religion doesn't go with GCB either, so it's not unique.